The theater was loud, restless, almost impatient until a small 10-year-old boy in worn-out sneakers walked onto the stage of America's Got Talent 2025, and within minutes, the unshakable Simon Cowell was wiping tears from his eyes. But what happened in those few minutes didn't just win a golden buzzer, it changed a life forever. Stay with me, because this story will remind you why dreams are louder than doubt. And before we begin, if you believe in the power of impossible dreams, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this deserve to be heard. His name was Mateo Reyes, a 10-year-old boy from a small fishing village in Cebu, Philippines. The kind of village where mornings begin with the smell of salt water and diesel engines, where houses are built from wood and tin sheets, and where children grow up faster than they should. Mateo didn't have a fancy bedroom. He didn't have a music teacher. What he had was a cracked karaoke microphone his father found at a flea market and a voice that seemed far too powerful for his tiny body. Mateo's father, Andres, used to be a fisherman. But after a violent storm destroyed his boat 2 years ago, everything changed. The ocean that once fed their family became a reminder of loss. Money became tight. Meals became smaller. And dreams felt like luxuries they couldn't afford. But every night, after long days helping his mother sell dried fish at the market, Mateo would stand outside their small home and sing. He sang not because anyone asked him to. He sang because it was the only time he felt bigger than his problems. Neighbors would gather quietly. Some smiled. Some cried. One elderly woman once whispered, "That boy's voice doesn't belong to this village." And maybe she was right. A local teacher recorded one of Mateo's performances on an old phone and posted it online. Within days, the video traveled further than Mateo ever had. Across oceans. Across time zones. Until one morning, an email arrived. Mateo had been invited to audition for America's Got Talent 2025. The family didn't believe it at first. It felt like a prank. But it was real. And suddenly, this small village was buzzing with hope. Getting to America wasn't easy. The community raised money, fishermen, vendors, tricycle drivers, each contributing what little they could. "Bring our pride with you," they told him. His mother stitched him a simple white shirt. His father polished his only pair of shoes until they shined like new. When Mateo stepped onto the massive AGT stage in Los Angeles, the lights felt blinding. The audience looked endless. The judges' table seemed miles away. Sitting there were familiar faces, including the famously hard-to-impress Simon Cowell, known for his sharp honesty and even sharper critiques. Simon leaned forward. "What's your name?" "Mateo Reyes, sir." "And how old are you, Mateo?" "I'm 10. The audience gave a soft ah, but Simon remained neutral. "Why are you here?" Mateo swallowed. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice stayed steady. "I want to help my family. And I want to show that kids from small places can have big dreams." There was something about the way he said it, not rehearsed, not dramatic. Just honest. The music began. It wasn't a typical song choice for a child. It was powerful. Emotional. The kind of song that demands life experience. And when Mateo sang the first note, the room changed. His voice was rich. Controlled. Painfully beautiful. You could hear the ocean storms in it. The hunger. The hope. The night singing under dim streetlights. Every lyric carried weight, as if he understood every word far beyond his years. The audience fell silent. One judge's mouth dropped open. Another placed her hand over her heart. And Simon, who rarely shows emotion, slowly leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on the boy. Halfway through the performance, Mateo closed his eyes. He wasn't on a stage anymore. He was back in his village. Singing for his parents. Singing for the neighbors who believed in him. Singing for every child who had been told you can't. When he hit the final high note, it soared, strong, fearless, unwavering. The last note lingered in the air like a prayer. And then silence. A single clap. Then another. Within seconds, the entire theater erupted into a standing ovation. Mateo opened his eyes, startled. He hadn't expected this. He looked small again, just a boy in an oversized stage. The judges gave their comments. They praised his control, his emotion, his authenticity. Then Simon spoke. There was a pause before he said anything. His voice was softer than usual. Mateo. I've been doing this for a long time, Simon began. And very rarely does someone come onto the stage and remind us why we started this show in the first place. The camera zoomed in. Simon's eyes were glassy. You didn't just sing a song. You told your story. And I felt every second of it. Mateo's lip trembled. Simon cleared his throat. You know, people talk about talent. But what you have is more than talent. It's heart. The audience cheered again. And then, without another word, Simon reached forward and pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti exploded into the air like falling stars. Mateo gasped. His hands flew to his face. He dropped to his knees as the crowd roared louder than ever. His parents rushed onto the stage, tears streaming down their faces. His father hugged him tightly, whispering, "You did it, Anik. You did it." Simon stood up and walked onto the stage, something he doesn't always do. He looked at Mateo and said quietly, "Never let anyone tell you where you belong. Because today, you showed the world." The moment spread across social media within minutes. 10-year-old Filipino boy brings Simon Cowell to tears became a trending headline. But behind that headline was a deeper truth. Mateo didn't just win a golden buzzer. He proved that circumstances do not define potential. In the weeks that followed, interviews poured in. Donations flooded their village. A new fishing boat was gifted to his father. A scholarship was offered for Mateo's education and musical training. But through it all, Mateo remained the same humble boy who once sang under streetlights. When asked what he wanted most, he said, "I just want my parents to smile more." And maybe that's why his story touched millions. Because in a world obsessed with fame, Mateo's dream wasn't about being a star. It was about love. About gratitude. About lifting others with his voice. The AGT finale months later was spectacular, but regardless of the final result, Mateo had already won something greater, belief. Back in Cebu, children now gather in the evenings to sing, inspired by the boy who proved that a small village can echo across the world. And somewhere in Los Angeles, Simon Cowell still mentions that night, the night a 10-year-old reminded him what raw, pure talent looks like. So if you're watching this and you feel too small, too unseen, too underestimated, remember Mateo. Remember that the loudest applause often begins in the quietest places. Dream anyway. Sing anyway. Believe anyway. And if this story moved you even a little, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because somewhere out there, another Mateo is waiting for someone to believe in them. Sometimes, all it takes is one stage. One song. One moment of courage. And everything changes. The audience was laughing. Not cruelly at first, just curious, uncertain. A small 10-year-old boy walked onto the massive stage of America's Got Talent 2025 wearing a slightly oversized suit and shoes that looked a little too worn for the bright Hollywood lights. He looked tiny under the spotlight. Almost fragile. And yet, less than 5 minutes later, that same theater would fall into complete silence, and the famously tough Simon Cowell would be wiping tears from his eyes. But what happened in between is something no one saw coming. Before we go any further, if you believe dreams can rise from the most unexpected places, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this deserve to be shared with the world. His name was Elijah Santos. 10 years old. From Davao City in the Philippines. A place full of color, warmth, and hard-working people, but also struggle. Elijah's father drove a tricycle 12 hours a day. His mother sold homemade snacks outside a public school. They lived in a small concrete house at the edge of a busy road. When trucks passed by, the walls shook slightly. At night, Elijah would lie awake listening to engines and distant laughter from neighbors. But when he sang, everything else disappeared. He didn't have vocal lessons. He didn't have expensive equipment. Just an old second-hand speaker and a cracked microphone his uncle gave him. He practiced every evening after finishing homework, standing in front of a mirror taped to the wall. His father used to tell him, "Your voice is your gift. But your heart is what will carry it." 2 years before AGT, Elijah's father was diagnosed with a heart condition. He couldn't drive long hours anymore. Income dropped. Stress grew. Elijah overheard late-night conversations about unpaid bills. About possibly selling their home. That night, Elijah made a promise to himself. One day, he would stand on a stage big enough to change everything. When a local singing competition posted his performance online, something unexpected happened. The video exploded across social media. People shared it, calling him the little voice with a big soul. Weeks later, an email invitation arrived. Audition for America's Got Talent. The family didn't even own passports yet. But neighbors helped. A small fundraiser was organized. Strangers donated online. And suddenly, Elijah was on a plane to Los Angeles staring out the window at clouds he had only seen in pictures before. Backstage at AGT, he looked around at dancers stretching, magicians rehearsing, singers warming up with professional coaches. He felt small again. A producer asked, "Are you nervous?" He nodded. "A little." "Why are you doing this?" He thought of his father's tired smile. "Because I want him to rest." When his name was called, the doors opened. The stage lights hit him like sunlight after a storm. Simon leaned forward. "What's your name?" "Elijah Santos, sir." "And how old are you?" 10. The audience let out a soft murmur. "And why are you here?" Elijah hesitated, then spoke honestly. "My dad is sick. I want to win so he doesn't have to work anymore." The room grew quiet. Simon nodded slowly. "Okay. Good luck." The music began, a slow piano intro. A song about holding on when everything feels like it's falling apart. Elijah closed his eyes. The first note was soft. But it was steady. Then came the second line, richer, fuller. By the time he reached the chorus, his voice expanded through the theater like it belonged there. It wasn't just power. It was control. Emotion. Pain wrapped in melody. The judges stopped writing notes. The audience leaned forward. Every lyric sounded lived in, as if he understood heartbreak, sacrifice, and hope in a way no 10-year-old should have to. Halfway through the song, his voice cracked slightly, not from lack of skill, but from emotion. And instead of hurting the performance, it made it real. Simon's expression changed. Gone was the skeptical judge. In his place sat a man remembering why talent shows matter. When Elijah reached the final high note, he didn't force it. He let it rise naturally, pure, strong, and fearless. Silence. The kind of silence that feels sacred. And then, the entire theater erupted. A standing ovation. Cheers so loud they echoed against the walls. Elijah opened his eyes, startled by the sound. For a second, he looked like a normal 10-year-old again, overwhelmed, blinking back tears. The judges gave their feedback. They praised his bravery. His tone. His storytelling. Then Simon spoke. He didn't rush. "Elijah," he began quietly, "there are singers who come on this stage with technique. And then there are singers who come on this stage with truth." He paused, swallowing. "You have truth." The audience applauded softly. "I could see your father while you were singing," Simon continued. "I could see exactly why you were here." Elijah's chin trembled. Simon stood up. The crowd gasped. "You don't need this show to tell you you're special," Simon said. "But I'd like to be part of your journey." And with that, he slammed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti exploded into the air. Elijah froze for half a second, then covered his face as tears poured down. He fell to his knees as the audience roared. His parents rushed onto the stage. His father held him tightly, whispering, "You already won, Anik. You already won." Simon walked onto the stage and placed a hand gently on Elijah's shoulder. "Your father should be very proud," he said softly. Within hours, the clip went viral worldwide. 10-year-old Filipino boy brings Simon Cowell to tears flooded social media feeds. Celebrities shared it. Donations poured in. A medical foundation offered to cover his father's treatment. A music school offered him a full scholarship. But when reporters asked Elijah what he wanted most, he gave the simplest answer. "I just want my dad to be healthy." Months later, during the live shows, Elijah returned stronger than ever. His confidence had grown, but his humility remained. He always thanked the janitors backstage. He always called his mother before rehearsals. Win or lose, he had already achieved something greater than a trophy. He reminded the world that greatness doesn't come from luxury. It comes from love. Back in Davao, children now gather outside in the evenings and sing louder than before. Parents point to the television and say, "See? That's possible." And somewhere in the memory of that AGT stage, there will always be the night a small boy with a giant heart reminded even Simon Cowell what music is really about. So if you're watching this feeling like your circumstances are too heavy, your stage too small, your dream too big, remember Elijah. Remember that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about singing anyway. And if this story moved you even a little, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because the next life-changing voice might be out there right now, practicing in front of a cracked mirror, believing that one day, the world will listen. And maybe, that day is closer than they think. The boy almost turned around. The stage doors of America's Got Talent 2025 were only a few steps away, but for 10-year-old Rafael Mendoza, they felt like a mountain. Behind those doors waited bright lights, millions of viewers, and one man known for crushing dreams with a single sentence, Simon Cowell. And yet, before this night was over, Simon wouldn't just applaud him. He would cry. But to understand why, you have to go back to where Rafael's story truly began. Rafael grew up in a small coastal town in Iloilo, Philippines. The kind of place where mornings start with roosters crowing and fishermen pushing boats into gray-blue water before sunrise. His family lived in a tiny wooden house balanced on stilts near the shore. When the tide rose too high, seawater slipped through the bamboo floor. His mother washed laundry for neighbors. His older sister had stopped going to school to help at home. And his father used to sing. Every evening, before life became heavy, Rafael's father would sit outside with an old guitar missing two strings and sing love songs from his youth. Rafael would sit beside him, eyes wide, absorbing every note. Music, his father once told him, is the only thing that can make pain feel lighter. But everything changed when a typhoon tore through their town. Their home was damaged. The fishing boats were destroyed. Jobs disappeared overnight. Rafael's father left to work in another city, promising to send money back. Months passed. The calls became less frequent. Money became unpredictable. And Rafael's mother tried her best to stay strong. At night, Rafael would stand outside the repaired remains of their house and sing into the wind, imagining his father could hear him wherever he was. One afternoon, a visiting tourist recorded Rafael singing by the shoreline. The video showed a small boy, barefoot, eyes closed, singing with a voice too big for his body while waves crashed behind him. That video crossed oceans. Within weeks, an invitation arrived, Audition for America's Got Talent. Rafael didn't tell many people. It felt too fragile, like a dream that could break if spoken too loudly. The town gathered what little they could, coins, small bills, prayers whispered over folded hands. When Rafael finally stepped into the AGT theater in Los Angeles, everything felt unreal. The stage looked endless. The lights were blinding. The judge's desk glowed like something from another world. Simon leaned forward, studying him carefully. "What's your name?" "Rafael Mendoza, sir." "And how old are you?" 10. Simon raised an eyebrow slightly. "And why have you come all this way, Rafael?" Rafael swallowed. His voice was small at first. "My father works far away. I want him to see me, and come home." The audience shifted. Simon nodded slowly. "Okay. Let's hear you." The piano began. Rafael chose a song about longing, about missing someone who feels like home. The first note trembled slightly. Then it steadied. Then it soared. His voice wasn't just strong, it carried ache. The kind of ache you only understand when you've waited by the door hoping someone will walk through it. As he sang the second verse, something changed in the room. The chatter stopped. Even the cameras seemed to move more gently. One judge wiped her eyes quietly. Rafael sang the chorus like he was sending a message across the ocean. His small hands gripped the microphone tightly. His eyes glistened, but he didn't look away. When he reached the bridge, his voice cracked, not from fear, but from emotion. He took a shaky breath and kept going. And that's when Simon's expression shifted. The critical gaze softened. The straight posture relaxed. For the first time that night, Simon wasn't judging. He was listening. The final note rose slowly, beautifully, hanging in the air long after the music stopped. Silence. Deep, overwhelming silence. Then the audience stood up all at once. A thunder of applause filled the theater. Rafael blinked rapidly, stunned. He hadn't expected this. He just wanted his father to hear him. The judges gave glowing praise. They spoke about authenticity, vulnerability, bravery. Then Simon spoke. He didn't rush his words. "Rafael, sometimes people come on this stage to impress us. You came here to reach someone." His voice grew quieter. "And I think you just did." Rafael's lip trembled. Simon paused, his eyes visibly wet. "You reminded me tonight why music matters. It connects people even across oceans." The crowd was already cheering. Simon stood up slowly. "I don't know where your father is watching from," he continued, "but if he's seeing this, I hope he knows what an extraordinary son he has." And then he pressed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti exploded like sunlight breaking through a storm. Rafael gasped, covering his face as tears streamed down. He fell to his knees under the golden rain, overwhelmed by cheers. Backstage, his mother sobbed uncontrollably as she ran onto the stage, wrapping him in her arms. And somewhere, thousands of miles away, a man working late in a crowded city dormitory watched the broadcast on a small phone screen, tears falling silently. Within days, Rafael's story spread worldwide. Donations poured in. Offers for music training arrived. Most importantly, his father called, promising he was coming home for good. But when reporters later asked Rafael what the golden buzzer meant to him, he gave a simple answer. "It means my dad heard me." That was all. Because sometimes, success isn't about trophies. It's about being seen. It's about being heard. It's about turning pain into something powerful enough to travel across oceans. Back in Iloilo, children now gather by the shoreline and sing at sunset. They don't laugh at big dreams anymore. They believe in them. And somewhere in the memory of that AGT stage, there will always be the night a 10-year-old Filipino boy didn't just move an audience. He moved a father. So if you're watching this feeling like someone out there needs to hear your voice, don't stay silent. Sing. Speak. Show up. Because you never know who's listening. And if this story touched your heart even a little, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because the next life-changing moment might already be happening somewhere, in a small house, near a quiet shore, where a child is singing into the wind, believing someone will finally hear him. And maybe they will. The spotlight flickered on, and for a brief second, you could see it in his eyes. Fear. Not the kind that makes you run, but the kind that makes you pray. A 10-year-old Filipino boy stood alone at center stage on America's Got Talent 2025, gripping a microphone that looked too big for his hands. The crowd murmured. The judges watched carefully. And at the end of this night, something would happen that no one expected, not even the famously unshakable Simon Cowell. Simon would cry. But this wasn't just about a performance. It was about a promise. Before we go further, if stories of courage and impossible dreams inspire you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because someone out there needs this story today. His name was Nico Valdez. He came from a small town in Bicol, Philippines, a place surrounded by coconut trees and quiet roads where neighbors knew each other's stories. Nico's family didn't have much. His mother worked at a small eatery, washing dishes from morning until night. His father used to drive a jeepney, but after a severe accident, he was left unable to work. Hospital bills replaced savings. Smiles were replaced with worry. Nico was only 8 when he first realized something was wrong. He would hear his parents whispering late at night, thinking he was asleep. Words like loan, debt, and rent floated through thin walls. That was the year he started singing seriously. Not just for fun. Not just because he liked music. But because he believed his voice could fix things. Every afternoon after school, Nico would climb onto a wooden chair outside their home and sing for anyone passing by. Vendors stopped. Tricycle drivers paused. Even stray dogs seemed to settle quietly when he hit certain notes. He didn't know technique. He didn't know vocal training. He only knew emotion. One evening, during a town festival, Nico was invited to sing on a small makeshift stage. Someone recorded it. The video showed a tiny boy in worn slippers singing with the intensity of someone twice his age. The clip spread online. Days later, an email arrived, an invitation to audition for America's Got Talent. At first, his parents refused. It felt too big. Too far. Too expensive. But Nico looked at his father and said, "Let me try." The community rallied around them. Neighbors donated coins. A local bakery held a fundraiser. His school organized a small concert in his honor. Piece by piece, the impossible became possible. And suddenly, Nico was standing backstage in Los Angeles. The air felt different. The building was massive. Other contestants warmed up confidently. Nico clutched a small photo of his family in his pocket. When his name was called, his heart pounded so loudly he thought the audience could hear it. He stepped onto the stage. Simon leaned forward. "What's your name?" "Nico Valdez, sir." "And how old are you?" 10. The audience gave a soft reaction. Simon studied him. "Why are you here, Nico?" Nico swallowed hard. "Because I want my parents to stop worrying." There was something about the way he said it, simple, honest, without drama, that shifted the atmosphere. Simon nodded. "Okay. Let's hear you." The music began, a slow orchestral arrangement of a powerful ballad about resilience. The first note was soft. Clear. Steady. By the second line, the audience leaned in. By the chorus, something changed. Nico's voice carried pain, but also hope. It trembled slightly at moments, not from weakness, but from sincerity. Every lyric felt personal.